So let's go ahead and start off with our predictions for this week. But Matt, talk to me about the Dolphins, man.
Talk to you about the Dolphins. What did I say to you guys
This was fun.
on chat? This is a team that reminds me of what it must feel like to not be a Saints fan, to not like consume Saints media all the time, and kind of look at it from a outsider's like, where the hell is this team going? And that's kind of my take on this team after looking at them. Like 2025, we could start with the last season results. They were 8-9. They're second in the division, and the Jets and the Patriots finished with top 7 picks, so second in the division wasn't hard to attain. Their offensive EPA per play was in the negative .040, which was actually tied for 22nd with Carolina. And Carolina had their own struggles, and I remember at the end of the year, Bryce Young was having a renaissance, but he was just kind of being average. So that's kind of where they were last year, and they missed Tua for multiple games. Their pass block win rate was 28th. Their run block win rate was 26th. That makes sense. Their offensive line is really, really bad. But their defense was a surprising, plus. They were 8th in defensive EPA per play, negative .023. Their pass rush win rate was 39%, which was 17th. And the run stop win rate was 30% and 18th in the ranking of the league. And then this is why I researched the quarterbacks. Tua, if you look at any underlying metrics on Tua, he's like a top 7 quarterback. Like his EPA per play in 11 starts last year was .2 flat, which was 7th. His success rate was 53.2% success rate, tied for second with Joe Burrow, behind only I believe it was Mahomes. So that's where he sits in the realm. And then you get into his time to throw. His time to throw was 2.3 flat, which is first of like any quarterback who started more than 10 games. So any real starter, he was leading the category by far. And that's the eye test with Tua. Like Tua's the ultimate eye test quarterback to me. That you understand why we have him ranked so low in any ranking, because when you watch him, it's just, this is fake. And then I researched Huntley just to really put into perspective, because their offensive EPA per play being 22nd, but Tua being 7th. Tyler Huntley, of guys with 183 snaps, because he played that, he had a EPA of 36th out of 44. Spencer Rattler was behind him. Jacoby Brissett was behind him. That's kind of the tier he was. And his success rate was 41st. At 39%. So very, very bad. And then you get to their offseason. They didn't really do much in the keeping department. Tyrell Dotson, off-ball linebacker, 2 years, $6 million. Liam Eichenberg, 1 year, $2 million. He's kind of their swing guard center. Kind of weird thing. He was a tackle out of Notre Dame a few years ago. Kader Kohu, who is kind of their most experienced corner if they end up trading Jalen Ramsey. He came back for $3 million. Benito Jones, their nose tackle, came back for $2 million. And then Bradley Chubb took a pay cut after he didn't play a single snap in 2024. He had, what injury did he have? Did he have like a knee injury, something like that?
Yeah.
But then you get into their free agency. Their high-tier free agent was James Daniels, who barely played for the Steelers last year. 3 years, $24 million. They're trying to find guards. They're trying to find guys who can play offensive line for them. Zach Wilson was their second leading free agent that they signed. $6 million for 1 year. Fatou Melifonwu is going to play safety for them. 1 year, $3 million. Nick Westbrook-Akine, 2 years, $6 million. He had like 9 touchdowns last year. Ashton Davis, 1 year, $2 million. And then Larry Borum, swing tackle, backup, 1 year, $2 million. Their draft, I included some day 3 picks because they only had 2 first-day picks. Kenneth Grant, obviously they stayed put at 13, took him. Jonas Savanier, they traded up 11 spots, and they traded away their 3rd and their 4th, and they kind of swapped 5th rounder. They kind of swapped their 4th with their 5th. They maneuvered their 4th and 5th, like 9 spots-ish, to go and get Jonas Savanier. Jordan Phillips was a defensive tackle I like. They got him in the 5th round. Ollie Gordon, I like him. Some people differ. He was a top 100 player for me. They got him in the 6th round. And then Quinn Ewers. Why not? Throw him in here. Hook 'em horns. And then you get into their quick departures. Teron Armstead retires. Javon Holland walks to the Giants. Robert Jones played 1,000 snaps for them at guard, so you're kind of supplementing a guy you draft in the second round and James Daniels to take all of those guard snaps and be better, frankly. Jordan Poyer, I think he retired. He hasn't signed anywhere. Emmanuel Agba, 700 snaps. He played a ton of edge. Like him and Deshaun Hand both leave. They played a ton of edge this year, but that's also because Jalen Phillips got hurt in week 4. Bradley Chubb, I mentioned, didn't play. So they have a good edge trio, losing those guys. And then Calais Campbell, we talked about, he went to the Cardinals. And then you get into... I had to throw in a new thing here. I had to throw in holdouts because Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith are holding out right now. And there's a world where one of those two guys or both of them get traded in the next few weeks. Jalen Ramsey played 1,000 snaps and Jonnu Smith played 600 snaps. And then I get into my season outlook question. How impactful does the defensive line and Bradley Chubb and Kenneth Grant, their rookie, and Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips have to be to negate what the secondary is? I'm going to share my screen really quick just so I can kind of present what their secondary is right now.
It's Storm Duck. He is a starting outside corner for them right now.
Yes, their secondary right now, Storm Duck's an outside corner. Cater Coe, who's going to play the nickel. If you just X off Jalen Ramsey, you're immediately slotting in Jason Marshall Jr., who's a rookie out of Florida. They signed 2 safeties in the offseason I just mentioned for, $1 million or $3 million each. Both of these guys combined, Ashton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu, combined for less than 500 snaps last year. And they're going to start for both of them. Cam Smith is a swing and a miss, but he might have to play. Artie Burns was good in Pittsburgh for a minute, but that's kind of where we're at with this team. So it's just interesting to see if they trade Ramsey, it's going to A, cost them money, and B, just limit their ceiling of what the secondary can be. So again, I ask, where are they going? What are we trying to do with the Dolphins? And they don't draft well. Maybe Dante Trader Jr., Jason Marshall Jr., someone gets on the field and plays at a competent level that you're saying, okay, we found a guy. We found a guy in the secondary on a cheap contract, but it's hard to really, you're out of options. You're limiting your optionality down the stretch, and secondary is the one. I mentioned secondary so many in these questions because secondary is such a volatile position, A, in, play, and B, in injuries. You get secondary injuries up the womb in this league. So if all of a sudden you trade Jalen Ramsey and Storm Duck, your outside corner is now going to miss 4 weeks. You just got to throw someone at the problem and hope it figures out. I don't know how this team is going to survive the season. But let me stop rambling and let's get into the prediction.
I am actually so glad though that that was your season outlook question, because that was exactly where my head went when I look at that roster. And Kenny Grant, I mean, he's a rookie. What can you expect? But for me, again, I really do think so much of that success that you're going to have on the defense relies on those 3 specific edge players in Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, and Bradley Chubb to stay healthy, which Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, given freak injuries, haven't really shown the ability to be able to do such. Mm-hmm. But if they stay healthy, how much of an impact can they have? Because if they're healthy, that might be arguably the best rotation of 3 edge rushers that you have in the entire league.
Yeah.
It's just, it's difficult. I don't know. I'll tell you this, though. James Bradbury is still a free agent. Maybe they can go out and sign that guy.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started with our predictions. We'll do
just a heads up. The teal, it gets cut off, but the teal is road games. The white is home games. So just for anybody watching later on YouTube, just keep that in mind.
Yeah. All right. So we're just going to go row by row. It's left to right. So, there's a lot of primetime games for this, by the way. That's the first thing that I'm noticing for this team. I mean, what is it? 6 of them. That's a lot for a team. So anyways, first row, I'm going to go week 1 loss to the Colts. They're going to beat the Patriots. They're going to lose to the Bills on Thursday Night Football. And then they're going to beat the Jets on Monday Night Football to start off 2-2.
I
Matt?
have them beating Indy. I have them beating New England. I have them losing on Thursday Night Football to Buffalo, and then beating the Jets on Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
Ben?
I'm right there with you. I have them actually opening up the season on an absolute scorcher. Dolphins fans are going to be so
Tua's
happy.
playing.
Yeah, because they're going to start out really, really happy because they're going to win all of these first 4 games against the Colts, Patriots, Bills, and Jets. I don't know why I had them win against the Bills. You have to have some of those games in there just over the course of the season, and it just kind of felt like it could be one of them. But I do have them winning the first 4 games. So you're opening up the season very happy with how it's going to look.
Next row, week 5, I have them beating the Panthers, losing to the Chargers, beating the Browns, losing to the Falcons, 4-4.
I have them losing to Carolina, losing to the Chargers, beating Cleveland, and then losing to Atlanta. So we're lockstep at 4-4, but we got there in different ways.
Ah, there you go. I have them losing these 3 games against the Panthers, Chargers, and Browns. Again, just as I did with the Bills, I'm going to have them lose against the Browns. You kind of just have to throw them in there. But I do have them picking up the victory against the Falcons. So I have them starting 5-3. Again, very happy for them thus far.
And then for the third row, I have them losing all 3 of these games as well. So they are 4-7 going into the bye. Matt?
I have them losing the next 2. I have them losing to Baltimore. I have them losing the season series 2-0 to Buffalo, and then but I do have them beating Washington in Madrid. First ever Spain game.
Ah, I didn't think about that. I forgot about that.
Sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it does. I have them losing those first 2 games against the Ravens and Bills. Or actually, I have them losing all 3 games against the Ravens, Bills, and Commanders.
All right. And then the fourth row, I have them beating the Saints. I will have them lose to the Jets. I'll have them lose to the Steelers.
Coin toss
And
game.
then I'm actually going to have them lose to the Bengals as well. Yeah.
Well, I do the Bucks and Pats too.
Okay. And then I have them losing to the Bucks and then beating the Pats. So 6-11 for me.
So I had them 5-6 of the bye. Forgot to mention that. I think they're going to beat the Saints. I think they're going to lose to the Jets. I mentioned that in the Jets video. I have them beating the Steelers, and then I have them losing out. I have them losing to Cincinnati, losing to Tampa Bay, and then losing to New England. They would finish 7-10, and once Ben is done, I'll mention their over/under.
All right. I'll make it nice and easy for you guys here. I have them beating the Saints, and then I have them losing out the rest of the season. So basically, after that first 4-game stretch, it is just going to be misery for them. And that's why I told you guys yesterday it was going to be fun because they're going to go into that season. They're going to be really happy. They're going to say, we're 4-0. Maybe we'll make the playoffs. You know, McDaniel's finally going to prove himself as the head coach. He's our guy. And then they're going to win 2 games the rest of the season. So I'm right there with you, Ryan. We just got there in completely different ways.
Yeah. I will say, like, on paper, this looks like a very doable, schedule for them. It's not necessarily the hardest in the world outside of, just a couple matchups. You know what I mean? Like, there's a world where they split with the Bills. There's a world where, you know what I mean, they start that 4-0, maybe even 5-0. I think they can compete with the Chargers. You know what I mean? Like, there's a world, but at the end of the day, I just don't like this roster right now. The way that it's built. Matt was going over it right now. I'm just not a fan of it. And overall, the teams that they play are heavily based against, what they have built right now. And this might be the end of Mike McDaniel in Miami. It's going to be exciting.
So their over under right now on FanDuel is 8.5. At plus 160 is the over, and Major Juice minus 190 to the under. So I have them 7-10. You guys each have them 6-11, correct? And Ben has them
Yes.
starting 4-0. Let me ask this question. Let me kind of branch off of it. We all don't see this team as a playoff team. But what is more likely to the Miami Dolphins end of the season where you were entering 2026, the calendar year? Are the Dolphins more likely to be picking in the top 5 or being a playoff team? Is my question.
Top 5. Are you having a Tua conversation at the end of this because of a top 5 pick?
He's making way too much money.
I'm just talking out loud because what was this team? 2-3 years ago, they were scoring 70 points against the Broncos. And now we're all kind of because I would agree with you, Ryan. I predict this team to be a top 5 pick rather than a playoff team. And it's it's crazy to see. Again, it speaks to this is what happens if you just continue to trade for major pieces. They traded for Chubb, they traded for Hill, they traded for Jalen Ramsey, and they drafted poorly. This continues to just show the stretch that you go down if you just keep replenishing veterans in a way and you can't draft well. So yeah,
you wanna know, and I'll just add on to my bold takes really quick because I know last week I had one, but this week my bold take is that Tyreek Hill will not be a Dolphin at the end of the season. I think that he's kind of passive aggressive with almost trade requests and you know what I mean, what maybe isn't a trade request. At the end of the day, maybe that 4-0 stretch works pretty well, whatever, right? But by the trade deadline, something's going to happen in which this guy is not happy, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I think that he's going to be looking for a team towards the end of the year, or his career, I mean, that's going to be more of a Super Bowl contender that can, hopefully move him into another playoff scenario by the end of his career. And Miami's not that. And I think that we all can agree on that.
Absolutely. And my thing is to your point, Matt, you're a team that of career's tenure here, and your hits that have turned out to be good pretty much aren't with the team anymore. Mm-hmm. Look at Robert Hunt. Look at where Holland is at. Your few guys that you do actually draft well leave. Wilkins. They're gone because you don't have the money to be able to pay them in the first place because you are going out and making those big trades. So if you can't draft well and you're trading for these high guys, and then on top of that, you can't pay the few guys that you actually do hit on, it's just a recipe for a disaster.
Yep. So I think that does it for our Dolphins schedule prediction. So those of you on YouTube, thanks for tuning in.